The silence in the command room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Admiral Jack Morrison stood with his hands behind his back, watching the giant screen that showed nothing but stars. But everyone knew something big was about to happen. For the first time in human history, aliens had sent Earth a message. Dr. Lisa Carter sat at her computer, her fingers moving fast across the keyboard. She had been working for 3 straight days to translate the alien message. Her coffee cup was empty, and her eyes were red from staring at the screen, but she kept working. This was the most important job anyone had ever given her. "Admiral Morrison, sir," Lisa said, her voice shaking a little. "I think I have it. The translation is complete." Morrison turned around and walked over to her desk. The other officers in the room moved closer too. Captain Ryan Davis stood next to Morrison, and President Nathan Brooks had flown in from Washington just for this moment. Everyone wanted to hear what the aliens had to say. Lisa cleared her throat and began to read. "To the people of Earth, greetings from the Zephyrian Confederation. We have watched your world for some time and believe you are ready to join the Galactic community. We invite your finest representatives to meet with us at the coordinates we have provided. Please bring your most capable forces as a sign of respect in our culture. We believe in strength through unity. We look forward to peaceful talks about Earth's future among the stars." The room went quiet again. Morrison rubbed his chin, thinking hard about what the message meant. President Brooks stepped forward and asked, "What do you think they mean by most capable forces?" Lisa looked at her notes again. In their language, the word they used can mean military forces, but it can also mean skilled people or leaders. Their culture seems to value strength and power. They want us to show them what we can do. Captain Davis frowned. "This could be a trap, sir. They might be testing us to see how strong we are before they attack." Morrison nodded slowly. "Or they might really want to see what humanity is made of. Either way, we need to show them that Earth is not weak. We need to make sure they respect us from the very beginning." President Brooks walked to the big window that looked out at the space dock. Hundreds of Earth's warships floated in space, their metal hulls shining in the sunlight. These ships represented 20 years of hard work and the best technology humanity had ever built. "How many ships do we have ready to go?" Brooks asked. 847 warships, Mr. President," Morrison answered. "The entire Terran expeditionary fleet. Every ship is in perfect condition and ready for action." Brooks turned back to face the room. "Then that's what we'll send. All of them." Captain Davis looked surprised. "Sir, are you sure? That's our entire military fleet. If something goes wrong—" "Nothing will go wrong," Morrison said firmly. "We're going to show these aliens that humanity is strong and ready to defend itself. When they see our fleet, they'll know that Earth is not some weak planet they can push around." Lisa felt worried, but didn't say anything. She had studied the alien message many times, and something felt wrong about sending so many warships to what the aliens called peaceful talks. But she was just a translator, not a military expert. Morrison started giving orders. "Captain Davis, I want every ship in the fleet ready to leave in 48 hours. Check all weapons systems, shields, and engines. This fleet needs to be perfect." "Yes, sir," Davis replied, though he still looked worried. "Dr. Carter," Morrison continued, "I want you on my flagship. We might need more translation work when we meet these aliens." Lisa nodded. "I'll be ready, Admiral." President Brooks walked over to Morrison and put his hand on his shoulder. "Jack, this is the most important mission in human history. The whole world is counting on you." "I understand, Mr. President. We won't let Earth down." Far away in space, the Zephyrian ship Gentle Current floated near the meeting point. Fleet singer Veltar was preparing for the cultural exchange ceremony. In Zephyrian culture, first meetings with new species were always special events filled with music, poetry, and art. Veltar had spent weeks preparing the perfect poems to welcome the humans. The other Zephyrians on the ship were practicing their songs and getting ready to share their most beautiful art. They had built special viewing platforms where both species could watch the ceremony together. "The humans should arrive in a few days," Veltar told his assistant. "I hope they bring good poetry to share with us." Their message said they would bring their most capable forces. They must have wonderful artists and singers. The assistant looked at the star charts. I wonder what human art looks like. This will be so exciting. Veltar smiled. The Zephyrians loved meeting new species and learning about their cultures. They had done this hundreds of times before with other alien races. It was always peaceful and beautiful. Back on Earth, Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Valkyrie. Through the window, he could see the rest of the human fleet getting ready to leave. 847 of the most powerful warships ever built were about to make the longest journey in human history. All ships report ready, Admiral, Captain Davis said. Morrison nodded. Send the message to the aliens. Tell them we're coming, and we're bringing our finest. The message went out into space, traveling faster than light toward the alien ship. When the Zephyrians received it, they were very happy. The humans were bringing their finest artists and cultural representatives, just as they had hoped. Prepare for departure, Morrison ordered. One by one, the human ships started their engines and began moving away from Earth. The sight was amazing and scary at the same time. Never before had so many warships traveled together on a single mission. Ambassador Elena Martinez sat in her small room on the Valkyrie, reading the alien message again. She was the only civilian on the ship, and she felt very alone, surrounded by all the military officers. Something about this whole situation worried her, but she couldn't figure out what it was. As the fleet moved through space toward the meeting point, both humans and aliens prepared for first contact. The humans thought they were showing strength and earning respect. The aliens thought they were about to enjoy a beautiful cultural celebration. Neither group had any idea that they were heading toward the biggest misunderstanding in galactic history. The stage was set for a meeting that would change everything, though not in the way anyone expected. The journey to the stars had begun, and there was no turning back now. Commander Sophie Blake stood in front of the tactical display on the UES Storm Fury, studying the alien positions ahead of them. Her job was to watch for danger and keep the fleet safe. What she saw on her screen made her nervous. Captain Hughes, "You need to see this," Sophie called out. Captain Tyler Hughes walked over to her station. He was a calm man who had been in space for 15 years, but even he looked worried when he saw the display. "What am I looking at, Commander?" Tyler asked. Sophie pointed at the screen. "Those are the alien positions around the meeting point. Look at how they're spread out. It looks like they're trying to surround us when we arrive." Tyler studied the pattern. The alien ships were positioned in a large circle around the coordinates they had given to Earth. To human military minds, it looked like a trap. "How many alien ships are there?" Tyler asked. "Our sensors show about 50 vessels, sir. They're much smaller than our ships, but we don't know what kind of weapons they have." In her small room on the flagship, Ambassador Elena Martinez was reading reports about the alien species. The more she learned, the more worried she became. Everything she read said that the Zephyrians were peaceful people who loved art and music. They had never fought a war with anyone. Elena walked to the bridge of the Valkyrie and found Admiral Morrison looking at the same tactical display that Sophie had been studying. "Admiral, I think we might be making a mistake," Elena said carefully. Morrison didn't turn around. "What kind of mistake, Ambassador?" "The Zephyrians are known throughout the galaxy as peaceful people. They've never attacked anyone. Maybe their ship positions aren't meant to be threatening." Morrison finally looked at her. "Ambassador, I respect your knowledge about alien cultures, but I have to think about Earth's safety first. If these aliens wanted a peaceful meeting, why would they position their ships in a circle around us?" Elena didn't have a good answer for that question. She wished she knew more about alien military tactics, but her job was diplomacy, not war. On the Zephyrian command ship Gentle Current, Fleet Singer Veltar was getting more confused by the hour. His sensors showed that the humans were bringing far more ships than any species had ever brought to a cultural meeting. "How many human vessels are approaching?" Veltar asked his sensor operator. 847 ships, Fleet Singer. All of them appear to be military vessels." Veltar's four eyes opened wide with shock. 847? "Are you sure?" "Yes, Fleet Singer. Our computers have checked the count many times." Veltar didn't understand. In all his years of arranging cultural meetings, No species had ever brought more than 10 ships. Most brought only 1 or 2. Why would the humans need so many ships for a poetry reading? Maybe humans travel in large groups, suggested his assistant. Some species are very social. Veltar tried to stay calm, but something felt very wrong. He sent a message to the other Zephyrian ships in the area. All vessels. The humans are bringing many more ships than expected. Please maintain your ceremonial positions, but be ready to retreat if necessary. The message worried the other Zephyrian captains. They had come here expecting to share songs and poems, not to face the largest fleet any of them had ever seen. Back on the Storm Fury, Sophie Blake was watching her sensors very carefully. The human fleet was getting closer to the meeting point, and she could see the alien ships more clearly now. Captain Hughes, the aliens are moving, Sophie reported. Tyler rushed to her station. What kind of movement? They're spreading out more, sir. It looks like they're trying to get better positions around us. What Sophie was seeing was actually the Zephyrian ships moving to their ceremonial viewing positions. In Zephyrian culture, important guests were always surrounded by a circle of ships so everyone could see the cultural ceremony. But to human eyes, it looked like the aliens were preparing to attack from all directions. Tyler grabbed his communication device. Admiral Morrison, this is Captain Hughes. The aliens appear to be moving into attack positions. On the Valkyrie, Morrison received the message with a grim expression. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Raise shields and power up defensive systems, but do not target the alien vessels. We're here for peaceful talks, but we need to be ready for anything. Across the fleet, 847 human warships suddenly lit up like Christmas trees as their shields and defensive systems came online. The amount of energy they were producing was enormous. Dr. Lisa Carter was on the bridge when the order came through. She saw all the lights and displays showing that the fleet was preparing for battle. Admiral, maybe we should try to communicate with them first, Lisa suggested. Morrison looked at her with tired eyes. Doctor, we are trying to communicate. We're showing them that humanity is strong and ready to defend itself. In space, actions speak louder than words. But the aliens were seeing something very different. When 847 human warships powered up their defensive systems at the same time, it created an energy signature that could be seen from very far away. To the Zephyrians, it looked like the humans were preparing to destroy everything in the area. On the gentle current, alarms started ringing everywhere. Veltar ran to the bridge as fast as his 6 legs could carry him. What's happening? He shouted. The human fleet just powered up enough weapons to destroy our entire solar system. His tactical officer reported, his voice shaking with fear. Veltar stared at the energy readings on his screen. The numbers were so high that his computer thought there was an error. No species in the galaxy had ever brought this much firepower to a peaceful meeting. Send a message to the Galactic Council immediately, Veltar ordered. Tell them that the humans might not be here for peaceful talks. The message went out across the galaxy faster than light, warning other species that something terrible might be about to happen. Within hours, every major alien civilization knew that humanity had sent the largest war fleet in galactic history to what was supposed to be a cultural exchange. Ambassador Martinez felt the ship shake slightly as the Valkyrie's massive defensive systems came online. She looked out the window and saw the rest of the human fleet glowing with energy. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. This isn't what first contact was supposed to look like, she whispered to herself. Elena walked back to Admiral Morrison. Sir, what if we're scaring them? What if they think we're here to attack? Morrison was studying tactical reports from all his ship captains. Ambassador, if they're scared, that's good. Fear leads to respect. When we sit down at the negotiating table, they'll know that Earth is a power they need to take seriously. But Elena wasn't so sure. She had studied history and she knew that fear could lead to war just as easily as it could lead to respect. She hoped that Admiral Morrison knew what he was doing. As the human fleet got closer to the meeting point, both sides prepared for what they thought was coming. The humans thought they were showing strength before important negotiations. The aliens thought they were about to be attacked by the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. Neither side realized that they were speaking completely different languages, even though their computers were translating the words perfectly. The real problem wasn't communication. It was understanding what the other side was really trying to say. The meeting point was only a few hours away now, and there was no way to stop what was about to happen. The moment had finally arrived. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the Valkyrie watching as the first alien ships appeared on the main screen. After all of human history, they were about to meet another intelligent species face to face. "Admiral, we have visual contact with the alien fleet," reported Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster from her position at the sensor station. Morrison stepped closer to the screen. The alien ships looked nothing like human vessels. They were smooth and curved, with strange colors that seemed to change as they moved. They were also much smaller than he had expected. "How big are those ships, Colonel?" Morrison asked. Amy checked her readings. "The largest one is about the size of our destroyers, sir. Most of them are smaller than our fighters." Morrison frowned. If the aliens had such small ships, why were they challenging a fleet of 847 human warships? Either they were very brave or very stupid. Captain Ryan Davis joined Morrison at the screen. "Sir, they're maintaining their positions in a circle around us. But look at this, they're not targeting us with any weapons." Morrison studied the display. Davis was right. The alien ships had formed a perfect circle, but their weapons weren't pointed at the human fleet. It was strange behavior for an ambush. On the Zephyrian command ship, Fleet Singer Veltar was trying not to panic. The human ships were enormous compared to his vessels. Each human warship was bigger than his entire cultural fleet combined. "They're so big," whispered his sensor operator. "How do they even move ships that large?" Veltar tried to stay calm for his crew. "Remember, we're here for a cultural exchange. Maybe humans just like to travel in very large ships." But deep down, Veltar was terrified. No species in galactic history had ever brought this much military power to a peaceful meeting. He began to wonder if the humans had lied about wanting peaceful talks. Ambassador Elena Martinez stood next to Admiral Morrison, watching the alien ships through the main screen. Something about the way they were positioned bothered her. "Admiral, look at how they're arranged," Elena said. "It doesn't look like a military formation. It looks more like they're trying to watch something." Morrison glanced at her. "Watch what, Ambassador?" "I don't know, maybe they're expecting some kind of ceremony." Before Morrison could answer, Lieutenant Colonel Foster called out from her station. "Admiral, I'm detecting an energy buildup from one of the alien ships." Morrison spun around. "What kind of energy?" "It looks like they're charging some kind of weapon, sir. The readings are strange, though. Nothing like our weapons." Captain Ben Rodriguez of the UES Iron Wolf was monitoring the same readings from his ship. To his tactical computers, it looked like the aliens were preparing to fire. He didn't know that what he was seeing was actually a Zephyrian ceremonial plasma torch being prepared for the welcoming ceremony. "All ships, this is the Iron Wolf," Rodriguez transmitted. "I'm reading weapons charging on the alien vessels. Recommend we raise our alert level." Morrison heard the transmission and made a quick decision. "All ships, raise shields to maximum power. Do not target the aliens, but be ready for anything." Across the human fleet, hundreds of warships suddenly powered up their defensive shields to full strength. The energy output was incredible, enough to power entire cities back on Earth. But the aliens saw something very different. When 847 human warships raised their shields at the same time, it created an electromagnetic pulse that could be detected across half the solar system. On the gentle current, every alarm started ringing at once. Veltar ran to his tactical station and stared at the readings in horror. "Fleet Singer, the humans just created an energy pulse that could destroy planets," his tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. Veltar couldn't believe what he was seeing. The energy signature was so massive that his sensors thought there might be a supernova about to happen. "Are they preparing to attack us?" Veltar asked. "I don't know, Fleet Singer. But if they wanted to destroy us, we couldn't stop them." In the middle of all this confusion, a young Zephyrian pilot named Kextar was trying to perform the traditional greeting ceremony. In his small ship, he powered up his ceremonial plasma torch and released a beautiful burst of colored energy into space. It was the traditional way to welcome honored guests. But when Captain Rodriguez saw the plasma burst on his sensors, he didn't see a greeting. He saw weapons fire. "Admiral Morrison, this is Rodriguez. The aliens just fired on us." Morrison's blood went cold. "Are you sure, Captain?" "Positive, sir. My sensors detected plasma discharge from one of their vessels." Morrison looked at the tactical display. The plasma burst was small and hadn't hit anything, but it was definitely there. Maybe it was a warning shot, or maybe the aliens were testing their defenses. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," he transmitted across the fleet. "We are under attack. Raise all defensive systems to maximum power. Do not return fire unless directly threatened." What happened next shocked everyone in the galaxy. 847 human warships simultaneously powered up every defensive system they had. Shield generators, point defense systems, electronic warfare suites, and sensor arrays all came online at once. The energy signature was so massive that it could be detected from other star systems. To any alien observer, it looked like the humans had just prepared enough firepower to sterilize multiple planets. Dr. Lisa Carter was working frantically at her translation station when all the alerts started going off. She had been trying to open a communication channel with the aliens, but now the bridge was in chaos. "Admiral, I think there's been a misunderstanding," Lisa called out over the noise of alarms and shouting officers. Morrison was too busy managing the crisis to listen. "Not now, Doctor. We're dealing with a potential attack." Lisa looked at her translation screens and felt her heart sink. The alien message she had just received wasn't a threat or a demand for surrender. It was a poem welcoming humanity to the galactic community. On the gentle current, Veltar was watching his worst nightmare come true. The human fleet was now showing enough combined firepower to conquer entire star systems. He had to make a choice: flee and warn the galaxy, or stay and try to prevent a war. "Send a message to all Zephyrian ships," Veltar ordered. "Begin emergency retreat procedures, and send a priority alert to the Galactic Council. Tell them that humanity appears to be a hostile military force." As the Zephyrian ships began to back away from the human fleet, their movement was detected by human sensors. To Admiral Morrison, it looked like the aliens were repositioning for a better attack. "They're moving, Admiral," reported Colonel Foster. "It looks like they're trying to flank us." Morrison studied the tactical display. The alien ships were indeed moving, but not in any pattern he recognized. Some were backing away, others were moving to new positions, and a few seemed to be just sitting still. Ambassador Martinez finally pushed her way to Morrison's side. "Admiral, please listen to me. I think we're scaring them. They're not attacking us, they're running away." Morrison looked at her with exhausted eyes. "Ambassador, their ships fired on us. We detected weapons discharge." "But look at their movement patterns," Elena insisted. "Does that look like an attack formation to you? They're retreating." Morrison looked at the display again. Elena was right. The alien ships were definitely pulling back, not advancing. But why would they retreat after firing the first shot? The answer was becoming clear to Dr. Carter as she continued translating alien communications. The Zephyrians weren't retreating because they wanted to attack from a better position. They were retreating because they were terrified. "Admiral, you need to hear this," Lisa called out urgently. Morrison finally walked over to her station. "What is it, Doctor?" Lisa's voice was shaking as she read the translation. "The aliens are sending messages throughout the galaxy. They're warning other species that humanity has brought enough military force to threaten entire civilizations." Morrison stared at her. "They think we're here to conquer them?" "Yes, sir. And now every major alien civilization in the galaxy knows that Earth has the biggest war fleet anyone has ever seen." Morrison realized that something had gone terribly wrong. He had wanted to show the aliens that humanity was strong and deserving of respect. Instead, he had convinced them that humans were dangerous conquerors who couldn't be trusted. But it was too late to change anything now. The message was already spreading across the galaxy at the speed of light. Within hours, every alien civilization would know that humanity had arrived on the galactic stage with the largest military force in recorded history. First contact was supposed to be a moment of wonder and discovery. Instead, it had become the beginning of humanity's reputation as the most dangerous species in the galaxy. And the worst part was that Admiral Morrison still didn't understand what had gone wrong. 3 months had passed since the first contact incident, and the galaxy was a very different place. Captain Kevin Murphy stood on the observation deck of the UES Stalwart, watching as another alien trade delegation approached the human space station. "Sir, the Alterian Commerce Guild is requesting permission to dock," reported his communications officer. "They're offering exclusive mining rights to their asteroid fields in exchange for a non-aggression pact." Kevin shook his head in amazement. This was the 5th alien delegation this week, and they were all offering the same kinds of deals. Free trade agreements, territory concessions, technology sharing, all because they were afraid of what humanity might do if they said no. "Grant them permission to dock," Kevin ordered, "and make sure their escort ships know they're welcome here." It still seemed strange to Kevin that alien visitors brought military escorts when they came to human stations. But Dr. Carter had explained that in many alien cultures, showing up without an armed escort was seen as disrespectful to a powerful military force like humanity. On Earth, President Brooks was reading the latest reports from Admiral Morrison's diplomatic mission. The results were better than anyone had dared to hope for, but they made Brooks feel uncomfortable. "Mr. President, the Corethian Empire has agreed to our proposal for a joint defense treaty," reported the Secretary of State. "They're also offering to share their advanced shield technology with us." Brooks looked up from the report. "Did they ask for anything in return?" "Just a promise that we won't expand our territory into their space, sir. They seem to think that's a very generous offer from us." Brooks rubbed his temples. Every alien civilization they encountered seemed to think that humanity was being incredibly generous just by not conquering them. It was a powerful position to be in, but it wasn't based on truth. Admiral Morrison was still commanding the human fleet from his flagship, though the mission had changed completely from what anyone had originally planned. Instead of a simple first contact meeting, he was now managing diplomatic relations with dozens of alien species. "Admiral, we have a request from the Nexus Alliance," reported Captain Davis. "They want to hold a ceremonial welcome for humanity at their capital world. They're offering to provide escort ships for our journey there." Morrison looked at the tactical display showing alien ships throughout the region. What had started as a cultural exchange had become the foundation of humanity's galactic empire, though nobody wanted to call it that. "How many escort ships are they offering?" Morrison asked. 200 of their finest vessels, sir. They say it's to show proper respect for humanity's power." Morrison almost laughed. The aliens were offering to escort the human fleet with ships that were trying to show off their own military strength. They still didn't understand that humanity had brought their entire fleet by accident. Dr. Lisa Carter was working in her new office aboard the Valkyrie, which had been converted into the primary translation center for all alien communications. She now had a staff of 20 people helping her manage the constant flow of messages from across the galaxy. "Dr. Carter, we're receiving a priority message from the Galactic Council," reported one of her assistants. Lisa looked at the translation as it came through. "They want to formally recognize humanity as a major galactic power. They're offering us a permanent seat on the Council and voting rights on all major decisions." Lisa felt a mix of pride and sadness as she read the message. Humanity was being offered everything they had ever dreamed of having in galactic politics, but it was all based on fear, not respect. Ambassador Elena Martinez had finally gotten her chance to do real diplomatic work, though not in the way she had expected. She was now leading negotiations with multiple alien species who all wanted to make deals with humanity. "Ambassador, the Stellar Mining Consortium is here for their meeting," her assistant announced. Elena straightened her uniform and walked into the conference room. 3 alien representatives were waiting for her, their body language clearly showing nervousness despite their attempts to appear confident. "Welcome aboard the Valkyrie," Elena said with a smile. "Please make yourselves comfortable." The lead alien, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms, bowed respectfully. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us, Ambassador. We are honored by humanity's willingness to negotiate." Elena had learned to be careful with her words. Everything she said was being recorded and analyzed by alien intelligence services across the galaxy. We're always happy to discuss mutually beneficial arrangements. We come with a generous offer, the alien continued. We will give humanity exclusive rights to mine rare metals in our territory. All we ask in return is your promise that human expansion will not include our home systems. Elena nodded thoughtfully. It was the same kind of offer they received every day. Alien species were essentially paying humanity protection money to avoid being conquered, even though humanity had no plans to conquer anyone. We'll certainly consider your proposal, Elena replied diplomatically. On the Zephyrian homeworld, fleet singer Veltar was preparing for another meeting with human representatives. The beautiful crystal chambers had been converted into briefing rooms, where Zephyrian leaders tried to understand their new reality. The humans have agreed to allow us to continue our cultural exchange programs with other species, Veltar reported to the council. They say they have no interest in controlling our artistic activities. The eldest council member, Melaxa, spoke slowly. It is generous of them to allow us to continue our traditions. We must be grateful for their restraint. Veltar felt sad every time he heard words like that. The Zephyrians had gone from being proud artists and cultural ambassadors to being grateful that the humans allowed them to exist. The change had happened so quickly that many Zephyrians still couldn't believe it. Have we learned anything new about human culture? Asked another council member. Veltar checked his notes. Their representatives seemed to prefer practical discussions over artistic ones. They appear to value efficiency and direct communication rather than poetry and ceremony. What Veltar didn't understand was that the human representatives were just as confused as everyone else. They were trying to do their best in a situation that nobody had prepared for. Back on the human fleet, Captain Rachel Stone was reading reports about the changes happening throughout the galaxy. What she saw amazed and worried her at the same time. The Vraxi clans have stopped their territorial expansion, she reported to her crew. They say they want to avoid any conflicts that might anger humanity. The Vraxi were known throughout the galaxy as aggressive warriors who had been expanding their territory for centuries. The fact that they had stopped their expansion because of fear of humanity showed just how much the galaxy had changed. Captain, we're also receiving reports that several smaller species have formed a mutual defense alliance, added her tactical officer. They're calling it the Humanity Response Coalition. Rachel frowned. Are they planning to fight us? No, ma'am. They're pooling their resources to make better offers to humanity. They think that if they work together, they can give us more valuable gifts. The situation was getting more absurd by the day. Instead of uniting against humanity, the alien species were competing with each other to see who could give humans the most generous offers. Admiral Morrison was in his ready room, reviewing the reports that came in daily from across the galaxy. The numbers were incredible. Humanity now had trade agreements with over 200 alien species, territorial concessions covering dozens of star systems, and technological sharing deals that would advance human science by centuries, all of it had been given freely by aliens who were desperately trying to avoid a war that humanity had never planned to fight. There was a knock on his door, and Ambassador Martinez entered with a worried expression on her face. Admiral, we need to talk, Elena said seriously. Morrison gestured for her to sit down. What's on your mind, Ambassador? This can't continue forever, Elena said. Eventually, someone is going to figure out that we never intended to threaten anyone. When that happens, the political situation could become very unstable. Morrison leaned back in his chair. Are you suggesting we tell them the truth? I'm suggesting we need to think about the long-term consequences of this situation. We've accidentally created a galactic empire based on fear. That's not sustainable. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Elena was right, but the truth was complicated. Humanity was now the most powerful political force in the galaxy, and they had achieved that position without firing a single shot or conquering a single world. What would you recommend? Morrison asked. We need to slowly change the relationship from fear-based to partnership-based. We can use our current position to create genuine alliances instead of protection arrangements. Morrison nodded slowly. It would be a delicate process, but Elena was right. The current situation couldn't last forever. As the months went on, humanity began the slow process of transforming their accidental empire into something more sustainable. They used their feared reputation to broker peace agreements between warring species, to establish fair trade practices, and to create the framework for a more stable galactic government. The irony was not lost on anyone who knew the real story. Humanity had. The news traveled faster than anyone could have imagined. Within 6 hours of the first contact incident, emergency meetings were being held in every major civilization across the galaxy. The message was the same everywhere. Humanity had arrived. With the largest war fleet in galactic history, Captain Rachel Stone stood on the bridge of the UES Devastator, watching her sensor displays with growing confusion. What had started as a simple escort mission was turning into something much bigger. "Captain, we're detecting multiple alien fleets approaching our position," reported her tactical officer. "I count ships from at least 12 different species." Rachel frowned as she studied the display. "Are they hostile?" "No, ma'am. They're keeping their distance and not targeting us. But they're definitely watching us very carefully." On Earth, President Nathan Brooks was in an emergency meeting with his advisors. The reports coming back from Admiral Morrison's fleet were confusing and worrying. "Mr. President, we're receiving communications from alien species we've never heard of before," reported the Secretary of State. "They're all asking about our military intentions and offering various agreements." Brooks rubbed his forehead. He had a terrible headache. "What kind of agreements?" "Trade deals, territorial concessions, non-aggression pacts. It's like they're all trying to avoid making us angry." Far across the galaxy, the ancient Corethian Empire was holding its first military council meeting in over 1,000 years. Emperor Zixara looked at the holographic display showing the human fleet and felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: fear. "How many ships did you say the humans brought?" the Emperor asked his military advisor. 847 warships, Your Majesty. Each one is larger and more heavily armed than our most powerful battleships." The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. The Corethian Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had never seen military power like this. "Prepare our fleet for emergency mobilization," the Emperor ordered. "If these humans are planning to expand their territory, we need to be ready." Similar conversations were happening everywhere. The Peaceful Nexus Alliance immediately canceled all their expansion plans and started building defensive space stations. The warrior culture Vraxi clans, who had never backed down from any fight, began discussing whether they should offer tribute to humanity to avoid war. Dr. Lisa Carter was working around the clock on the Valkyrie, trying to translate the flood of alien communications that were pouring in. Every few minutes, another species would send a message to the human fleet. "Admiral Morrison, you need to see this," Lisa called out, her voice tired from too many hours without sleep. Morrison walked over to her station. The bridge had been busy for hours as reports came in from across the fleet. "What is it now, Doctor?" Lisa showed him her latest translation. "This is from something called the Galactic Trade Federation. They're offering to give us exclusive trading rights to their entire network." Morrison looked confused. "Why would they do that? We haven't even started negotiating yet." "Sir, I think they're trying to bribe us. Look at this message from the Stellar Mining Consortium. They're offering us rights to mine in their territory if we promise not to attack them." Morrison stared at the messages in disbelief. "They think we're here to attack everyone?" Dr. Carter nodded sadly. "Yes, sir. And the word is spreading fast. Every alien civilization in the galaxy now thinks that humanity is planning to conquer them." On the Zephyrian homeworld, Fleet Singer Veltar was giving an emergency report to the Planetary Council. The beautiful crystal chambers that usually echoed with poetry and music were now filled with worried voices discussing military preparations. "The human fleet is unlike anything we've ever seen," Veltar reported. "Their energy signatures suggest they could destroy entire solar systems if they wanted to." The eldest member of the council, an ancient Zephyrian named Mel Axa, spoke in a voice filled with sadness. "In all our years of greeting new species, we have never encountered anything like this. Perhaps humans are simply too different from us to understand." What should we tell the other young species who are waiting to meet them? Asked another council member. Veltar thought carefully before answering. Tell them to be very careful. The humans might be peaceful, but they are definitely the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Back on the human fleet, Ambassador Elena Martinez was trying to make sense of all the alien communications. Her small office was filled with reports and translations, and she was starting to see a pattern that terrified her. Elena hurried to the bridge and found Admiral Morrison studying tactical displays of the growing alien presence around the fleet. Admiral, I think I understand what's happening, Elena said urgently. Morrison looked up from his displays. Explain it to me, Ambassador. Every alien species in the galaxy thinks we're here to start a war. They're not trying to attack us. They're trying to appease us. They think we're so powerful that fighting us would be hopeless. Morrison frowned. But we came here for peaceful negotiations. I know that, and you know that, Elena said. But look at it from their perspective. We brought 847 warships to what they thought was going to be a cultural exchange. To them, it looks like we're showing off our military power before making demands. The realization hit Morrison like a physical blow. He had wanted to show strength and earn respect, but instead he had convinced the entire galaxy that humanity was a species of conquerors. On the bridge of the Storm Fury, Commander Sophie Blake was monitoring communications from the growing number of alien ships in the area. What she was hearing made her very uncomfortable. Captain Hughes, I'm intercepting alien communications that you need to hear, Sophie reported. Captain Tyler Hughes walked over to her station. What are they saying? Sophie played back the translated messages. They're discussing how to manage the human threat and minimize casualties when the humans begin their expansion. Sir, they think we're planning to invade the entire galaxy. Tyler felt sick to his stomach. Are any of them planning to attack us? No, sir. If anything, they seem to be competing with each other to offer us the best deals. They're all terrified of us. The situation was getting worse by the hour. More alien fleets kept arriving in the area, but instead of threatening the humans, they were sending messages offering everything from star systems to technological secrets. Dr. Carter had stopped trying to keep up with all the incoming communications. Her translation computers were overloaded with messages from species she had never heard of before. Admiral, the aliens are treating us like we're the most dangerous species in the galaxy, Lisa reported. I'm getting messages from civilizations, offering to become our vassals if we promise not to attack them. Morrison sat down heavily in his command chair. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to go. Humanity was supposed to join the galactic community as equals, not as feared conquerors. What do we do now, Admiral? Asked Captain Davis. Morrison thought for a long moment before answering. We continue with our mission. Maybe when we actually start talking to them, we can clear up this misunderstanding. But Elena Martinez wasn't so sure it would be that easy. She had studied enough history to know that first impressions were very hard to change. The galaxy now saw humanity as a military superpower, and that reputation would follow them wherever they went. As reports continued to come in from around the galaxy, it became clear that the human fleet had accidentally triggered the largest diplomatic crisis in galactic history. Species that had been enemies for centuries were suddenly working together to figure out how to deal with the human threat. The irony was terrible. Humanity had come to the stars hoping to make friends, but instead they had become the one thing that could unite the entire galaxy. A common fear. And the worst part was that Admiral Morrison still believed he was doing the right thing. He thought the alien reaction proved that his show of force had been necessary. He didn't understand that he had just convinced every intelligent species in the galaxy that humans were the most dangerous military power they had ever encountered. The fleet continued toward the meeting point, unaware that they were no longer going to a peaceful first contact ceremony. They were heading to what the galaxy now saw as a demonstration of human military supremacy. Behind them, the largest gathering of alien military forces in galactic history was slowly forming. All of them trying to figure out how to survive humanity's arrival on the galactic stage.